Oh shit. Here we go again.
Hello and welcome out to this week's episode of Outbreak Gamers. I'm your host, WEBDAVE, David Anthony, big fat guy in the chair, whatever you want to call me. Out to answer to anything. And I am here with Ty. Ty, how you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me, Web.
Oh man, this is good. We wanted to do this for a while. You you live in another country, so there's definitely a time difference, which can happen. So so at least you don't live in Australia. That's a really big time difference.
Oh, it is. I did a podcast with a guy before from Australia, and it just couldn't work. It was a disaster. I mean, that one episode was good, but ever like linking up ever since then was just impossible. So
Yeah, I'm with you. It's
Europe isn't too bad. Europe isn't too bad.
Yeah, 13 hours in the future for Australia, like 6 hours difference now. So it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon for me. It's like 9 o'clock at night for you. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, it works out pretty well.
It does. Well, welcome, man. I really appreciate you being here. And of course, you have, I guess, your show your channel, your YouTube channel, which everything will be in the links, will be in the description below. And it's basically, well, it's Taye Talks, Taye Talks.
Yeah,
When it's spelled out, it's TAYE. To me, it looks like day or Tay, and then of course we see TAI.
Yeah, so the thing about the name is so the origins of the name is actually it's a Nigerian name, right? From the tribe Yoruba, and if you're twins, the firstborn is called Taye or Taiwo, and the secondborn is called Kende or Kenny. So that's where the name comes from. And then so the whole and I remember I would always say Taye to everybody, right? And when I would spell it out, they would just say Tay. So at some point it kind of just became a thing where everyone would just say Tay, and I just kind of left it as okay, it is what it is.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the origins. But yeah, it's not your fault, it's not anyone's fault. It is a pronunciation thing. And I remember I would talk to even other Africans, and when I spell it out for them, they say the exact same thing. They say Tay. So I just think it's just a spelling.
Well, still, we're so glad you're here.
Again, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. So with that said, let's kind of get started. I always just to kind of feel somebody else what as far as their life goes, like what was your first job that you ever had?
First job I ever had. Such a long time ago now. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I worked in a place called it was an insurance company, Brennan Insurance, and it was my first step into kind of I guess you could say with the administrative kind of world. It wasn't too difficult. It wasn't too tasking, but people would kind of call in saying, I broke my leg, and I would just have to decide, are they covered or not. So it was simple, but I guess working with a team, it was my first step, and then after that, I moved into London, where I worked in a legal company. They deal primarily with property law, and probably I think my main highlight was working in Transparency International Ireland, which is it's an NGO that focuses on whistleblowers and people just in need. So you had a problem with your manager, something bad has happened, and you don't really know what to do or call or who to call. You just not who to call. You contact us, and then we would just give you your I guess you could say your legal options. I would just kind of advise you on what to do or what you can't do. That was really interesting. I think whenever you have a job where you're helping people, it always kind of leaves a mark on you. So that was my favorite job. I moved to Spain to teach English. Now that job was really good.
That's awesome.
Different culture, different types of people. Spanish are cool. I like them a lot. And I was teaching like kids, teaching teenagers, teaching adults, teaching all types of people. And teaching kids is, I don't know, it's such an amazing thing to do. Um, I guess like it's such an important role because you kind of help them and navigate them through how can I say it? Difficult times, I suppose.
Right.
Like very influential, like because if they look at you as somebody who is like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a motivator, um, not an icon. I don't know. I'm losing the word right now.
That's all
Um,
right.
there's a word to kind of describe it.
Someone that might inspire, maybe, or
Yeah, something like that, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's a very important role,
Mm,
and
definitely.
just living in Spain for 1 year, that was an amazing experience. Probably one of the best that I've probably maybe the best period of my life in that segment anyway was really fun.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I could see where teaching um, a language that's I wouldn't say quite universal, but it's pretty prominent. And if you want to, succeed in it's a lot easier if you speak multiple languages, or can at least, like if you're trying to come to America or you're trying to work in America, it's or deal with Americans, it's
Hmm.
a lot easier if you're know their language.
Oh,
So,
100%, yeah.
so
And I think that the great thing there was like when I would arrive in a country, I expected them to have a certain level of English, but they didn't. They really didn't, and
that's funny.
so it was a bit of a shock. I think it's a very maybe like a very, I don't know about the United States because I know you guys have a lot of Spanish speakers there, but
Oh
maybe in
yes.
like in Europe or maybe in England and Ireland, it's a very like it's a bit of a shock because you go to a different country and you kind of think like, well, English is universal, everybody should speak it, but in these countries, there's like, nope, not everybody does. So
Right.
yeah, you learn pretty fast to navigate around, and I think that's probably the learning experience there as well because you learn a lot about yourself when you kind of forced to go out of your comfort zone and do different things. I'm going from the tech industry, business administration to teaching children, like completely different set of skills. So yeah, great experience.
It sounds like it would be. It really does. Like I said, it sounds like it was important. Plus, I mean, I'm sure you probably learned a lot too. Not only the language and sometimes maybe the inflection or maybe dual meanings of certain words that that you may like. Because a lot of language, even different languages have different meanings for the same type of word. Things like that
Exactly. Yeah.
that can be interesting. Plus, too, I'm sure the culture, like the food and you know the dress and everything was new to you, and probably it's always really nice to get immersed in other cultures, I think. So
Oh,
that's
it
cool.
is. You learn a lot. I think that the best thing is probably you become a lot more open minded because
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to survive. Um, I had people from like the Philippines, Canada, Americans, people from people from the United States, Australians. So you learn a lot about even their countries, and I think you make these lifelong connections. Until this day, I'm friends with all these guys. So um, I would always urge people, like anyone who's young and you just finished university, I would always urge them to go abroad and just like learn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, you make amazing connections. So yeah.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Well, let's kind of get into gaming a little bit. How did you? I get. Well, maybe the better question would be like, what was your first experience in gaming? Was it like console, PC, arcades? How did you get the gaming bug?
I have this very distinct memory of going to my cousin's place playing
Hmm.
they had the NES, so Street Fighter, all that kind of stuff was great, Mario. But
Nice.
the Game Boy, and I mean the black and white Game Boy, they had
Yeah.
it. And I
Nice.
remember playing, Jumpmaster, whatever it was called. I remember playing it. And, I mean, I think that was just the first step. I loved it. Street Fighter was a game I was really into. Um, and then, from there, I mean, it was just like, it was a toy, I guess you could say, as a kid. And then, when you grow up, I got a PS1 and I got a Sega Mega Drive. And, I feel like my relationship with the PS1 was quite strange because even though I had a PS1, had the Sega Mega Drive, and I got a chance to play the N64. I never was really into the PlayStation 1. I liked Ridge Racer, I liked Street Fighter, and that was about it. Like in terms of like the iconic games, like Final Fantasy, Metal Gear Solid, I just never really cared for or touched. And when the N64 came, and I'm playing like Super Mario, and I'm playing WWF No Mercy, these kind of games, Donkey Kong, Mario Tennis, like those were the games I just felt was amazing. I gravitated to. So I became a Nintendo fanboy very early on. And I got the GameCube, which to me, like, you know, the GameCube is probably still the best console ever made. I think it had the perfect blend of first party games, you know, F-Zero, Metro Prime, you know, Zelda, Mario, and Beautiful Joe. But it also had these third party games like Resident Evil 4 and the likes. So GameCube was my favorite console. But my neighbors, they had an Xbox, and they they gave it to my mom, who obviously gave it to me. I remember thinking to myself, like, what a big ugly box. Like, why? Like, who would make such a thing? You know, and even the controller was terrible. It was huge,
the Duke,
bulky. Yeah, the Duke.
Yeah.
But listen, I love games, so eventually I decided to give it a try. And the game that came with the Xbox was Halo. And I feel like Halo was like a step for me anyway in looking at games differently, because it was like the first game I played where you kind of felt like you were it felt like an action movie to me. You know, the story was good. You felt like a hero. Like, you know, there was a lot of tension in the game, and you know, then I had the fact that the game is a co-op. So Halo was huge in that sense. But around this time I was always really into not just the games, but into talking about the industry. So I have all these friends who don't really care about the industry. They don't really want to talk about directors or, you know, what Microsoft's going to do next, what Nintendo's going to do next. It was just me talking about like these little details, and they were thinking like, what, like, you know, you just play games. Like, why are you talking about the industry? Like, doesn't make sense. So that kind of passion, I guess you could say, eventually led to me trying to create content, because I would watch podcasts, you know, I would watch YouTube videos. And at some point I was just thinking, nah, I disagree with your opinion. Your opinion kind of sucks. I'm pretty sure like, you know, I could do this too. And that's kind of how it started. I just started making content after that. But after the Xbox, you know, I got the Xbox 360. Amazing console as well. But the thing about, I know we're jumping like, you know, to like now like a different topic.
That's all right.
But the thing is, in Europe, the Xbox is not really, it's not big.
Well, it's not popular.
Yeah, it's not popular at all. The Xbox 360 was good, but when it came time for the Xbox One, no one was buying that console. So if you ever wanted to play with your friends, if you wanted to, like, you know, swap games, it was just impossible. Like by default, it doesn't matter if you're an Xbox fan or not, you just kind of had to get a PS4 just so you could kind of be in the circle of chatting with friends and playing video games with friends.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And but obviously now with Microsoft's you know, Xbox Series X and S, then you have the xCloud, you have Game Pass. You know, it's a lot more attractive. And that's kind of how I got back into the ecosystem. I got Game Pass Ultimate. I was playing Scarlet Nexus on my mobile phone. Like, that was, I didn't have an Xbox console, but I'm using xCloud to play Scarlet Nexus, and then it just made sense to just get a console. So I guess, yeah, you could say shout out to Phil for thinking outside of the box, you know, in terms of trying to get people into the ecosystem, and it works. Because I remember that Funny Games, is it Funny Games? The interview with Paris and
Kind of Funny Games.
Kind of Funny Games, yes. Sorry, Kind of Funny Games.
Yeah.
And you know, and people were talking about how, hey, you know, our Xbox is going to be whatever, second class citizens or whatever. And I'm thinking, no, I like this approach with the PC on the cloud because it's working. Like, for me, I'm like, that's how I go back into the ecosystem, you know, via cloud. So it's definitely something I think they should keep up on. It'll be sad to see if they kind of walk it back a bit. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that coming though. I don't see them walking it back at all, because I believe it's probably the future for at least them, if anything. So,
I think cloud is huge, and I feel like a lot of people who talk, I guess, negative about cloud, they don't really they haven't either tried it or they're trying xCloud. And xCloud isn't great at the moment. It's improving, but compared to its competitors like GeForce, it's not really
Correct.
there. But when Microsoft gets to that point where the technology matches even what its closest rival Nvidia is doing, then it's huge. It's gonna blow up, 100%.
Oh, I agree with that too. And some of it still, as far as the quote unquote cloud, there's certain areas in the world where
Mhm.
there's not as much infrastructure to really maintain what
Yeah,
you need for the quality of gaming. As well, there's a lot of games you can still play, but not necessarily like a first person shooter or something that relies
yeah,
on
yeah,
milliseconds of response time
yeah. No, I get you.
that might hold them back. But there is more and more, higher quality of gaming coming for everybody. So, and I think that's cool. That's awesome. So when you're I guess the PlayStation 4, you started playing that.
Mhm.
Like what games and what what kind of what I guess what games did you play with your friends and what were they and what got you to continue, obviously you play more than just one game. So
Yeah,
what kind of games do you
yeah,
play on the PlayStation 4 with your friends?
yeah. So for the PS4 was FIFA is a huge one over here in Europe, and I think the European Union they even said it, like, during the whole Activision Blizzard thing. They said, FIFA is probably more of a bigger deal here than Call of Duty. If that
Oh
was
yeah.
exclusive, like, yeah, that's gonna be huge for Xbox. So FIFA is one. Call of Duty to an extent, yeah. Battlefield, I really loved Battlefield back then. I loved I love Bad Company too. Such an amazing game.
Me too.
Uh, yeah, I'm so sad it's that they haven't. Like, I'm shocked that EA hasn't tried to bring that back for that franchise back. But yeah, that was one. I'm a fan of Bioshock. I I like Sony's IPs. I like The Last of Us and I like Horizon. I'm not too
Oh
big
yeah.
into God of War at the moment. I know it's good, but I ain't too crazy about it. Um what else? Halo's the one as well that I'm a fan of. I recently
Yeah,
got back into Gears of War, and that's such a good game. Like,
it
yeah,
is.
really good game. And everyone keeps saying stuff like, Microsoft or Xbox, Gears, Forza, Halo, but Gears is a really good game. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, to be honest. So yeah, so with the PS4, yeah, I guess you could say just a kind of typical kind of games. Dishonored as well. It's not a good game.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mentioned I'm a Nintendo guy as well. So even like with the Wii and the Wii U and the Switch, Smash Brothers is a game I love.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
I'm a huge fan of Smash Brothers. Mortal Kombat, huge
Oh
fan
yeah.
of that game as well. Street Fighter is pretty good too. Um, Yeah, I think. Oh, I'm gonna forget. Probably my favorite game of all time, Mass Effect.
Ooh yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Do you like the remakes that they released? Did you play? They played through those?
I think that they did a great job with the remix, because it wasn't just or the remaster, because it just wasn't just a HD version. They kind of went out of
Hmm.
the way to kind of make it a lot better. And I would like it if remasters kind of like went down the Legendary Edition route in terms of trying to make the game a little bit something more, maybe like a halfway point between a remaster and a remake. But yeah,
Yeah,
Mass
that would be
Effect was
cool.
but Mass Effect was huge, because like I was telling you, like Halo was a game that kind of introduced me into this whole you can be like an action hero kind of stuff. But Mass Effect was a game that kind of told me about choice, and there's consequences to these choices. And I guess you could say, from an art form perspective, subjectively, obviously my opinion, Mass Effect was that game that it kind of took into a different level for me, because you start to care about these characters really well. I'm not saying I didn't care about characters in Halo, but in Mass Effect, I really cared about these characters, and because it's your decision that you're making, it's impactful. So, and then yeah, and then I started making just Mass Effect contents pretty much a lot of those times. But like, I'm more diverse now. I'm making different kind of things.
So with your so I guess as you we were kind of going down that road, so let's go ahead and jump in it.
Mhm.
So what I guess was there any particular podcast that kind of influenced you to give it a try, or were you did you reach out and then or did you just start trying things on your own and
Mhm.
just How did it come to be? How did you get to
What I
Taye
used
Talks?
what I used to watch this show called Extra Credits and the Game Over Thinker.
Mhm.
And what they do is they analyze the industry in a different way. They one episode could be the art of storytelling in video games. One could be something about um how video games are mature, or video games as an art form is better than reading or film. So it was really looking at like the details of it. And I really like that. From a podcasting perspective, or just talking to people, this was when I was kind of getting back into. I mean, I always loved the whole debating scene or whatever, and I was looking. I was looking to get back into the Xbox ecosystem, obviously, because I like the idea of Game Pass. I like the idea of XCloud, and Rand's channel popped up, and also Double Barrel Gaming, and I took a liking to that a lot because I think Boom is an amazing guy, um, and I started to watch his content a lot more. And I was just thinking, yeah, this is really cool, like people just talking about video games, having a great time. So the idea was already in my mind to to obviously create content, but I was watching Boom's show a lot. At that point, then I obviously decided to create my own podcast with my friends, and they didn't really pan out too well. They kind of just fell off after like 2 weeks. 2 weeks they were gone. So I just started focusing on like just kind of making my own content in terms of talking about video game analysis in the same vein as the guys who made Extra Credits and the Game Over Thinker did. And that became like the foundation of the channel. And from a podcasting perspective, I guess you could say, it's quite similar, or it was quite similar to what you could probably find on the Xbox Factor 2. I think that's what's called, or Double
Mhm.
Barrels Gaming's podcast. It's quite typical,
Mhm.
even like yours as well, a group of people, China way, the same kind of structure. So those are the foundations of how I got into content creating. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. I like. I do. I've listened to several of your shows that you have up on your channel, and then of course, where I met you
Hmm.
was Kay Asante.
Yeah.
He's he's an amazing person. I love the show that was on actually earlier today.
Yeah, I was watching that as well. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that was cool. They actually got to hang out together for a while. That's
Hmm.
pretty cool. Go out to dinner and stuff. And the episode was really good with a lot of good guests. In fact, I thought they probably could have gone another couple of hours easily if they if they wanted
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, it was really
So
good.
I love it when you get in that kind of groove and you just want to keep going. So that always makes for good content too. But but Kay, he had you on as a guest, or having you on as a guest, and everyone was a guy had gotten sick that morning, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want to join on with me?" I was like, "Sure." And that's how I got to meet you. And then like I
Yeah.
said, I think you're awesome. So you're actually really good at what you do, very clear and precise. In your opinions, and I like that a lot. So and it was good because like we talked about in the green room earlier, we kind of agreed to disagree,
Yeah.
but it was very friendly, and that's the best kind, because
Yeah.
everybody's got different views and different opinions, and it can't like everything that somebody else likes. It just doesn't work that way. That's why we have so many choices in gaming.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Kay is a Kay is a great guy, and I obviously came into contact with him in from Double Barrel from Boom's channel.
Hmm.
And he was the first one who put me on his show. I think before that I was like just making content about Xbox and PlayStation,
Hmm.
and because a lot of my views or additional views was coming from Boom's channel, I shouted him out in a video because I mean his analysis was pretty much the analysis I was putting out, right? And then we
Hmm.
got to talking, and then he put me on the show, and then I got to meet MK. I think Dutch was there as well, and Everborn was there too as well. And then I just started like chatting with those guys, and then I was on Kay's. I think I've been on Kay's podcast a couple of times now.
Hmm.
But yeah, we talk now and then on Twitter. Like he's a good guy. Everborn as well. I love Everborn's takes. The wild, the really
Yeah.
it makes you think. You know, it's
He does.
all the conspiracy stuff, but it's really good. And then yeah, so I remember on that show, and then obviously I met you as well. But but the first time I actually got to check out your channel before then, and also I think I've seen you in a couple of different podcasts. And I
Mhm.
remember thinking like, oh, this guy has a really good mic. Like his mic is really, really good. But yeah, no, you're right. Having the disagreements, it's great. I don't think I would be really weirded out if everybody agreed, to
Right.
be honest. And I don't think people should just disagree for the sake of disagreeing. But
Correct.
if everybody agrees, I always feel like if everybody agrees with each other, like, are we missing something here? Like,
Right.
is there a different take that we're not seeing that is good? And I guess maybe that might be my debate bro mindset coming in.
Mhm.
But I do think you get to learn a lot, for at least from the other side, in that way. So yeah, I mean, we disagreed a little bit on some of the talking points, but I do think now we'll probably end up agreeing a lot because um, Xbox is doing great, doing really
They
well.
are.
So there you go.
They are doing great. And
I remember,
it wasn't a you know, not like, you know, PlayStation bad, Xbox good. It wasn't
yeah,
that kind of talk at all. But it was just some points that
mhm,
you know that and you made some good points too that I didn't wasn't thinking of it from that angle. And that's the whole point about a discussion is that you know
yeah,
you may be informed of something that you're not aware of. And that's what happened to me when I was talking with you, and that was awesome.
yeah,
And plus, two, the thing I like about the community at large now is it's global
hmm,
like never before. You know,
yeah,
we were talking earlier about the different time zones with you know some of our Australian friends,
yeah,
but there's some great minds and great thinkers and great game players from there that are you know that you know have a great view of
hmm,
gaming that we never would have been able to you know have before
yeah,
without it. So it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. So and I do actually look forward to at some point, and we'll talk about this off the air, but maybe having you on Gamers Council and maybe having you on one of our bonus shows that we do on a Saturday.
sounds good.
That might be a better time fit for you. So, so you wouldn't be up so late. So,
Yeah,
so
no,
that
that
would,
sounds good. One thing I've noticed about the Xbox community in specific is there's a very everyone's really connected and friendly. Like it doesn't feel very difficult to talk to people like
mhm.
the main guys in the Xbox community. I think it kind of bleeds down from the leadership because like I'll have a PlayStation. I know everything about PlayStation, but I don't really know the PlayStation leadership, right? Whereas I feel like I almost feel like if I'm like trying to talk to Phil, at some point he'll probably respond and be like, "Yeah, sure, what's up?" It's really weird. I feel like they're very open and very easy to connect to, and I think the fan base as well, just like that. Like the content creators are pretty much like that too as well. So yeah, it's something I've noticed when I started like just getting back into Xbox. I think the fans are good, and the content creators are really good too as well. So yeah.
All right. Well, as we, you know, kind of bottle the axe here toward the end, but
Hmm.
let's kind of get your, I guess your opinion, your views. This will go up in a few days,
Hmm.
so from now, but yet, you know, it'll be up forever. So we, it's one of those things where you want to go down the rabbit hole a little bit, but you don't necessarily want to take it down a
Yeah.
too dark a path. But so like, I guess, what is your opinion right now? With what we know of the state of gaming for all sides. And what do you think we can expect in the next couple of years, you know, from gaming in general?
Oof. Instead of gaming, I think we're in a very good spot, and I think there's a lot of competition. I have some friends who are not happy with the acquisition of ABK,
Hmm.
because they felt like, no, this is bad for, Microsoft just gonna buy everything. And I remember thinking that's not the way it works. Like they could buy ABK. If they want to buy Capcom, there is, a regulatory body that's gonna review that. And I think I'm honestly, I don't like from an ABK perspective, I don't care about the games. I just care about the revenue that brings in for Microsoft, for Xbox, because I think with that revenue, they can compete better are we going to get more games? And we're going to see more Game Pass deals, which is good for the consumer. And that's pretty much all I care about. You know, I couldn't care if
Right.
Crash shows up or not. I just want them to be in a financial position where if Sony went to a developer and said, "Can we get that as an exclusive?" Microsoft now has the resources, or Xbox has the resources to fight that off and say, "No, here's the bag. You know, here's that King money, or Candy Crush kind of money." So I think we're in a very, very good spot. I think 2023 kind of shows that like it's been the best year in gaming. You know, I remember seeing also my friend was saying how like Baldur's Gate is, everybody needs to kind of follow what they're doing. And I'm thinking, I don't know about that. Like there's like
Right.
Street Fighter came out, that was good. Mortal Kombat is good. Diablo's good. Jedi Survivor's good. Zelda came out is good. There's so many good games. Like, what are you talking?
Mhm.
Like, Baldur's Gate is not the only game that's coming out. Like, Starfield's out, that's good, and it's different. Sea of Stars came out. The 2D, old school,
Right.
JRPG game, and like, I think that's Metacritic about 90.
Yeah.
We're in a great time when it comes to video games. I think the worry is there might be a kind of a shift towards live service games. But I don't really, I don't feel that fear, because I feel like there's always going to be a place for these single player experiences. Um,
Right.
I think, yeah. So I feel like in the next 5 years, I think it'll be good. I don't see any, downside to what we have right now.
Yeah, I agree with you for 100% on that. I mean, and even after the acquisition deal is finished, hopefully this week, coming up once and for all, done in the can, official. It'll Sony's still going to be the number one video game
They will be, yeah.
retailer in the world. So, it's not going
They
to
will be,
change, not changing positions or anything. It's
yeah,
just a matter of maybe it gives Microsoft a better foothold to be, competitive,
yeah,
which will in turn make Sony competitive again.
one hundred
Um,
percent.
so, and that's what we need. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just I mean, I have a PlayStation. I love my PlayStation. I'm not a big Spider-Man fan. It's okay, and the new one looks okay, but to me, it's not what I'm looking for. Ghost of Tsushima, I love
Mhm.
that, and when the sequel gets announced, I'm gonna be all over that. Hardly wait. I love stealth type, even though it's samurai, and you're maybe not supposed to be
Mhm.
playing stealth mode, but that's what I like doing.
Exactly.
And that's to me, I love the different, variety,
Yeah.
and and Game Pass just offers so much that there's so many games I've played in Game Pass that I would have never played
Mhm.
otherwise, for the fact of either the money or, but now that it's convenient and it's already included, and we know that the people that put their games in there are making their money,
Yeah.
so they're happy, or they wouldn't put them in there. They don't, you're
Yeah.
not forced or bend the knee to do that.
Yeah,
So
it's such a weird take whenever I hear these comments about like Game Pass hurting this, hurting the industry. It doesn't make sense to me. They
yeah,
make it seem like these guys have a gun to their head, like, oh, we got to put your game on Game Pass. It's like, no, they put it there because there was something that was given in return, right? Um, so yeah, no, it's a weird one. I do have a question for you though about
yes.
Spider Man. Do you think that's a next gen game?
Mm, I don't know. They're using a lot of assets from the last game, the Miles Morales, which
Hmm.
I mean is has been enhanced and upgraded, but that one was also available on the PS4.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, they have the ability to, I guess throttle it up, as it were. Because I'm not sure, but I don't believe, maybe I'm wrong, that Spider-Man 2 is going to be on PlayStation 4. I'm not sure about that.
yeah,
If it is, then no. If it is, then only available on
PS5,
PlayStation 5, then definitely could be considered a next
next
gen.
gen game. Yeah,
Yeah, but the whole no matter how much people want to jump away from it or whatever, but COVID really, the beginning of this generation, it really it changed a lot of things,
yeah,
and not all for the good. But unfortunately, it was the way it was. But the way I look at it is most of these gaming companies did what they had to do to survive COVID and to maintain the gaming industry that we have. You know, last year Microsoft hardly any big games at all. Few, you know, first party games, but they weren't AAA. You know, and then this year Sony has one big AAA game, and right now we know of a few games that they're in the works. A lot of gas games and stuff coming out, and Wolverine's coming, but we don't know when. You know, maybe we'll find out at the Keeleys, you know, the award show coming up in December. Maybe we'll find out more of what their, you know, their lineup is. But, you know, so I think that Sony, the way the timing fell, they were able to get some things out the door to get themselves through COVID, and it looked a little better than Microsoft did. But yet Microsoft has now positioned themselves to where they're as it's going forward. From Starfield and then on, we know that they've got 4 AAA bangers coming out next year. Not only that, but you got to think that in a couple of months or a month or less, you know, all of Activision Blizzard King, those are going to be Microsoft first party.
Exactly.
So some of those things that do come into Game Pass will be like, ooh, that just boosted up all that. So
exactly. I do think the fear for, because I know people like to focus on, you know, first party. I don't really focus too much on first party. I just look at what's an exclusive. And I think the fact that Sony can say, well, we got Final Fantasy, the next the remake coming out, and that's going to be an exclusive, I think that's a huge gap. Because I think the average gamer doesn't care who's actually making the game or who's producing the game. They just care about, like, well, where can I play it? And if I can play it over there, then that doesn't really matter. And the not the fear, but the interesting point would be, well, if Sony's lacking games for 2024, and we know they're extremely good at money hatting games. They took Deathloop, they took Ghostwire Tokyo, they took Final Fantasy, they took the other Final Fantasy, they took well, not Return. I think that was supposed to be developed for them. They've taken Knights of the Old Republic, you know, and let's not forget they were trying to get Starfield as an exclusive. So it means that they were willing to spend a lot of money just to get an exclusive game. That money's still there. So the question is, I won't be surprised if they're calling Capcom saying, you guys announced that you're going to release a game next year that's going to be like, well, set 1 million plus copies. I won't be surprised if Sony's trying to get that as an exclusive, because I feel like they're a little bit more vicious when it comes to these things. Next year, they're going to try to get exclusive games. Now, they might, I mean, the new CEO might have a different opinion on that, but I won't be surprised if games and money had next year, and you know, Xbox is kind of like left thinking, damn, like we expected these to be a, you know, a multi-platform game, but you know, we'll see.
Yeah, I how can I say this? I believe what you're saying is correct, that they definitely will be doing some, you know, quote unquote money hatting to try and get you know, things under free. I mean, they have there's one game that's coming out from oh God, I can't think of the name of the company. This is so bad. I look so stupid right now. All right, so there was the Wukong that came out for the Xbox.
Yeah.
And then that same company is making another game that's kind of.
Is this Stellar Blade you're talking about? No.
No, it's for PlayStation, but the company.
I know the game you're talking about, but the name eludes me at the moment.
But it's a ninja type game. In other words, it's a stealth type ninja, which is like, I wish Microsoft had gone after that game and gave them the other one, but it didn't work out that way. That's, you know, but they have it as an exclusive, and that's going to be big for them, you know, for Sony.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you know, and that's good. But you know, right now there's a lot of uncertainty whether Jim was retired, fired, let go. You know, there's, you know, like I said, every and I'm not trying to paint a bad picture of Sony. Sony's like I said, they're still number one, and they're a big company, but it's, you know, but the new headset, the 3D is not as successful as they wanted it to be, and they haven't announced any new games for it yet.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then they've got the new handheld, the Portal
cloud one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to buy one of those because I'm curious as to about it. It's $200. I'm gonna try it. If I don't like it, I'm sell it on eBay. But but I
Yeah.
kind of like the idea of being able to go into another room while it's on the big TV, 75
Yeah.
inch, watching her soaps, and then I can go into another room and watch soaps. I'm just kidding, but watching her programming, and then I can go into another room and still be able to play Ghost of Tsushima
Exactly. Yeah.
without having to worry, and still have the power, but I can be in another room where I don't have to move the system around. I can just sit
Hmm.
down, comfortable chair, and enjoy my game. So that's the only the thing that kind of I'm not worried for Sony. I know Sony's going to be just fine. We know they have was it the Death Stranding 2? We know is going to be coming at some point.
Yeah.
And like I said, Wolverine is going to be coming at some point. So I don't see any. I just don't think that right now it's kind of a mystery, and hopefully
Mhm.
a lot of things will get cleared up at the game show. But then also with Jim leaving, we'll just say it that way. And instead of having somebody a successor already lined up and picked out, it's the gentleman. I can't think of how to pronounce his name. Takogi. I
Yeah.
can't. I'll butcher it. But he's I mean, he's the head of Sony, all Sony.
Yeah.
And he's taking over,
I,
Jim's
I guess
position.
did that happen before in the past? Like,
Mhm.
when the previous CEO was leaving, was there somebody else
Mhm.
um, you know, who just took over straight away? Because I think there's something there. I'm not gonna be so naive to say that, like, something didn't happen. There's a lot of smoke. I just I think it's a really weird one because if you put Jim in power and if the PSVR 2 is coming out and he buys Bungie and he's making the portal and he's doing all these things, you must have been aware.
Mhm.
And I guess my question is, why would you let him pull the trigger and then leave? Because now you're stuck with Bungie. Now you're stuck with the portal. Now you're stuck with the PSVR 2. So it
Mhm.
feels like, when he bought Bungie, for example, because I know some people are saying that, like, hey, that's not really panning out, so they're not too happy about it. But when he bought them, there was clearly somebody signed off on that at Sony. So it
Yes.
means that his views or his reasons for buying them was acceptable. So I'm just really confused as to why they would because whoever who's taking over, if they're not going towards Jim's position, and I mean if they're not thinking about like Jim's policies or views, then it's gonna be a huge shift, and you're gonna be stuck with these devices or these studios that you
Mhm.
have no interest in whatsoever.
Yeah,
So that's why I was thinking it's a really weird thing to do.
it is.
Um, because it's not because Jim was taking the company in a completely different direction, and that already started. That ship has sailed.
Yep.
You're already putting a lot of money into this live service situation. So for you to then say that, well, let's course correct. Well, now I'm questioning, but why didn't you course correct 2 years ago?
Right.
Really
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. And some people have said, and I've listened to other podcasts that have brought up the that maybe some things that came out at the ABK trial
Hmm.
weren't necessarily favorable to Sony, and some of his comments that came to light, and some of the, I guess, the overall.
The image of everything.
Right, exactly, has kind of left them kind of, I wouldn't say tarnished, but but I mean, definitely, you know, they don't want the bad stuff because no company wants the bad stuff to come out. There's plenty of emails that came out and feels kind of like, ooh, that didn't that didn't sound so good.
Yeah.
And then some of them were totally misconstrued. Like the thing about buying Nintendo, he wasn't saying let's buy Nintendo. They tried
Yeah.
that years ago. He said, okay, let's look at this. If you were to say buy Nintendo, this is where they're at, and this is why it probably wouldn't work.
Yeah. Like he was asked a
We're
question,
always
like
open to it.
I would have answered the exact same way Phil did, to be
Yeah.
honest. You can't just
Mhm.
say like hell no. Like, no, he's basically saying like, yeah, listen, if the option was ever available and Nintendo was looking to sell, he said, I think we'll be in a good position to kind of, say, hey guys, are you interested in working with us? And I believe him. I think Nintendo will
Yes.
probably consider it. Like, Microsoft, Xbox. I think they see something there.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're right. I hated all these leaked emails, but I'll say this. I think the ABK situation, I feel like it doesn't really affect Jim as much. And I know I've listened to different podcasts where they've said that, like, he said a lot of things, he was lying, he was doing all these things. I don't think
Right.
that matters. I
Right.
think investors don't care because gamers don't care about these things. And I mean the average gamer, the normal
Correct.
gamer, because he was saying all these things, but God of War still sold 5 million in like what, a couple of days. And if the sales are coming
Yep.
in, you don't really care too much. I will say this though. I don't know much about Japanese culture. I don't
Right.
know much about how the big bosses in Japan think, but they probably weren't too happy with all these L's, all this other image. I
Hmm.
think they care more about PlayStation's image, and I think him portraying them as weak, talking about, oh, we're gonna be destroyed if this deal goes through. I think they
Right.
didn't like that. I don't think it matters if the investors probably didn't care, the shareholders probably didn't care at all, but I think they were probably irked by that. Like, why are you positioning us in this way? We are Sony,
Right.
like we're like the pride of Japan from a technological point of view.
Yep.
And you're saying we're gonna die if one game that's not even a Japanese game.
Yeah.
Like, are you insane? So I
Yeah.
feel like they were irritated by this, and that's my only real. Because I'm thinking, like, why would they get rid of him? And I think it's a culmination of what they probably perceive as L's
Right.
that is happening. Um, and that's my only explanation for it. If
I
it was true,
I agree with that. The only thing I would say is that this last quote unquote upload to the FTC, where there were some document links that were left in the upload that weren't supposed to be there, that supposedly Microsoft thought that the FTC would remove those when they uploaded them. FTC is like, that's not our responsibility.
Mhm.
You gave it to us. We uploaded it as is. Whatever. It happened. Now they're back up, but without the all the added stuff. But one of the things
Yeah,
that was in that was the breakdown of the profitability,
yeah,
and you know, granted, Sony sold a ton of systems. There are like over 40 million systems on the PlayStation 5, but yet their profit margins for all they say they sold compared to what Nintendo's profit margins were,
yeah.
and Nintendo, Microsoft beat them. So it's
Yeah.
like when it comes down to it, it's like,
We're
how much
actually
did you
losing.
spend and how much did you make?
Yeah,
Exactly. So that may have been an eye opener for their, the board members, maybe.
yeah. And I guess this is something else, like, because I take your point there, and I agree, but I do wonder if Jim is basically saying, "Well, exactly, this is what I'm talking about. We need live service games
Hmm.
because right now, like, we're doing all these God of Wars, we're doing Horizon, we're doing all these big games, but the reason why Microsoft is able to actually do well with a profit margin is because guess what? They have this game called Fallout 76. I think it has 20
Hmm.
million subscribers. I think Sea of Thieves has 30 million. They have Minecraft. Like, Microsoft actually has a lot of live service games. It's just like, people don't really like look at it that way. And if you look at Sony's side, they have zero, like none whatsoever.
Hmm.
So I feel like Jim is right. He's like, yeah, we need to go towards live service games because what we're doing right now is not sustainable. And I think the people at Sony must accept that that's somewhat true. Um, so he's right there, So I'm kind of thinking he's right there. So why would you get rid of him then? I mean, it makes perfect sense. Like, you might not like the
Yeah.
fact that Microsoft is making all this money, but Jimmy's trying to fix it. He's trying to go into
Hmm.
PC, and I think one really interesting point is we don't know if who takes over is gonna actually open up the subscription service model. Like, okay, fine, let's buy games day and date. We don't know if they're gonna go towards the PC or not.
Right.
I think there is an argument to be made that maybe the guys at Sony didn't like these moves. They didn't like the fact that the PlayStation games were coming out on PC. They didn't like the fact that, like, he was putting some games day and dates, however small, day and date. They didn't like the fact that Sea of Stars was coming out on PlayStation on the subscribe on PlayStation Plus. So there's a chance that Jim was actually more in line with Phil's thinking of games being everywhere than what the actual, like, board members of Sony was thinking. I guess we'll find out whoever who takes place. I think that's going
Yeah,
to be really important.
that is going to be interesting as to who actually takes over in March, who they officially announce.
Hmm.
It's definitely interesting. And to your point, um, you know, Jim actually said in an interview, we can't rely on console gamers alone because there's so much of a market on PC of money they could be making that they weren't tapped into. And because he started opening up the PC, that's so much more money they're making off a title that's already done in the can. No more
Yeah.
research, no nothing, just a few tweaks, a couple $100,000 to make it PC worthy or PC compatible, and
Mhm.
then it's out the door and they're making tons of money. That makes sense. And that's what Microsoft has been doing for years, you know.
Yeah.
So and the nice thing is you buy a copy of which I don't know if they'll ever get this point, but you never know. But like from Microsoft, if you buy Starfield on your console, you have it on your PC automatically.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
you can play it both places and your saves load to the cloud and you're
Mhm.
good to go. So there's just so many things that if little things like that, the cross save, the saves in the cloud that don't cost you money, if those kind of things were available on PlayStation, it'd be really hard for Microsoft to catch up.
Yeah, you're right there, and I think it's both companies are doing two different things, but I think
Mhm.
eventually they're going to meet. Um, and the question I think for Microsoft is, as time goes by, can when we start producing the type of games like AAA, tentpole, blockbuster games that Sony is known for, when we get a good amount of those on a regular basis, well, they don't have anything up against us. There's no necessary benefit that they have. And I think for Sony, it's they need to maintain the fact that, like, this is the best place, we have the best games before Microsoft catches up. So I feel like
Right.
there's a bit of a rat race going on.
Yes.
Um, and I think Jim is trying to stir the company because I feel like he knows it's coming. Like, as soon as Microsoft starts acquiring all these studios, Obsidian, Ninja Theory, that they're trying to compete and they're going to eventually get to where you are. So I feel like Jim is trying to stir PlayStation in a way where, okay, we have live service games and we have a good subscription service that can compete with Game Pass. We also have the streaming capabilities. So when they're here, we're also there too. Because the last thing you need or the last thing you want is Microsoft dropping amazing AAA blockbuster games that can rival yours, and they also have the best deal in gaming and all these other extra benefits. Like, at that point, then you've lost. So I think that's what we're kind of seeing now.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, gosh, Ty, this has been awesome talking with you. I'm gonna ask you one more question as we start to wrap things up, and this is what I ask everybody. So just to kind of, and you can give me more than one answer. So I'll give,
Mhm.
give you that right now. So, what game are you looking forward to the most that's not out yet, but that's coming and everybody's aware of? So what game are you most looking forward to in the future?
Tough one. I'm gonna say right now, probably. Let me let me Google the name. I don't want to get the
You
name
go
wrong.
right ahead. That's fine. That's fine.
Compulsion's game.
Mm.
Compulsions. Is it Project Midnight? Compulsion game. It's a
Oh,
game
the
that.
the one that looks like claymation
Yes.
and set like in the
Uh,
bayou type thing. Yeah, that looked pretty good.
yeah, the game looks really good, and I think that might be
After
something
midnight or
special.
something
Something, yeah, Midnight. Yeah, it
beyond
looks
midnight.
really, really good.
Yeah, I know what you're
And
talking about. And I think probably they will pick it up too, and I'll get
yeah,
it in the
I think
description
I'm mixing
below.
up the actual code name with the
Yeah.
actual name of it. So, but that game looks really interesting. I know we didn't see any gameplay, but I'm interested to see because they did We Happy Few, and I think it had some issues. But given the right amount of time, given the right amount of finances, I think they can make something special. And I feel the exact same way about State of Decay 3 as well.
Yeah.
On Dead Labs, I think very very talented. A lot of possibilities with that game. And once again, they're another studio where, given the right amount of time and given the right amount of finances, you can expect something special from them too as well. I'm going to say, obviously, Mass Effect. Primarily because Mary DeMal, she worked on Deus Ex not Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy. She was the lead writer on that, and I think she's exceptional. So I feel like I feel like from a story perspective, Mass Effect is going to be good. I don't think I trust her abilities. I just don't know if the overall game is going to be good.
Let's hope.
But it's a big it's a step in the right direction that they got her on board. So looking forward to that as well. That's kind of it. But I will say this is just maybe I'll just say this is a bonus. CD Projekt Red. Any project that they're working on is going to be good. When it comes to storytelling, they're amazing. And I think we've seen that with like even Cyberpunk, the one with and the original one, the one when it came out was amazing, right? And then we're seeing the 2.0 version, and we're seeing the latest expansion, and it's great. I think whatever they touch is going to be gold. And I feel like they've learned from their lesson, after dropping Cyberpunk, that what, we need to take our time, and we need to kind of make sure that everything is in order. So with that said, I think their next game, whatever it is, I can almost put like a lot of money on it that it's going to be something special.
I agree with that 100%. Taye, thank you so much for being on here today. Taye Talks is your channel. Let's tell everybody where they can find you, where they can reach out to you, and of course everything's going to be in the description below. But still like to hear it too. So
Yeah, sure.
let everybody know where they can find you.
First of all, thanks for having me. Enjoy this conversation, and yeah,
me too.
Looking to talk to you again in the future. The channel name is Taye Talks or Taye Talks, and you can, just type it on YouTube, you should find me. It's primarily focused on video game analysis in terms of characters. So you're gonna find a lot of Mass Effect contents there, some details in terms of some theories, some themes, and some characters analysis. One video that seems to be catching a lot of views right now that I did is Commander Shepard versus John 117. So Halo versus Mass Effect. Yeah, I'm happy the video is doing pretty well, and I'm looking to make more content around a versus battle. The next one is going to be probably Cal from Star Wars versus Geralt of Rivia. I think that one's going to be interesting. So yeah, that's the channel, and if you want to find me on Twitter or X, it's the same thing.
Either one.
Taye Talks as well. Taye Talks, TayeTalks. And again, thanks for having me, man.
You are most welcome. Well, thank you for being here. Greatly appreciated. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate you being here. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you like to get more of this. And on my channel and on Taye's channel, please make sure that when you're there on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and also hit the little bell icon so whenever he drops new content, you'll be able to go jump to it right away and watch it and catch up, because it's good stuff. You will enjoy it, I guarantee it. And thanks to everyone for being here on Outbreak Gamers.
Game over.